Hey, what's going on?
Dad, Zane is gone.
What do you mean he's gone?
I don't know. It all happened so fast. I can still hear his scream in my head.
You never expect the creature you raised and trained for years to turn on you. But this wasn't a tragic mishap. It was a chilling message. Zane was one of the best. If it could happen to him, it could happen to anyone. A day that changed everything on. The morning of March 12, 2018, a respected marine park trainer's life was cut short in one of the most horrifying ways imaginable, by the very creature he had nurtured and trusted for years. Nalani, a 30-foot orca, turned on her trainer in a sudden, violent and unprovoked attack. That trainer was Zane Marston, a man whose career had been marked by respect, dedication and a deep love for marine life. These are the terrifying final moments of Zane Marston. A career built on trust. Zane's journey with orcas was one of patience, purpose and passion. From the beginning, he dedicated himself to understanding these majestic creatures, spending countless hours observing, learning and forming meaningful connections. His approach to training was gentle and respectful. He believed in positive reinforcement, mutual respect and never forcing a performance. Among the many orcas he worked with, none shared a stronger bond with him than Nalani, a longtime resident of Sealand Marine Park. Their relationship was admired by staff and visitors alike. Zane and Nalani were more than trainer and performer. They were partners. Sealand, the illusion of harmony. Sealand Marine Park had long dazzled crowds with its awe-inspiring orca shows, drawing millions each year. But behind the smiles and applause lay a complex reality. A fragile relationship between humans and animals, confined to artificial environments. Captivity, pressure to perform, and limited freedom were taking a toll on these intelligent mammals. Subtle shifts in Nalani's behavior began to worry staff. There were brief moments of unpredictability, flickers of stress. Zane, however, remained unwavering. He believed in their bond. He trusted her. The breaking point. No one knows what truly went through Nalani's mind in those final moments. But what should have been a routine training session turned into a nightmare. In a swift, ferocious act, Nalani attacked. There were no warnings. No signs, just chaos. And then silence. Why this story? Matters, Zane's death was not only a tragedy, it was a wake-up call, a reminder that even years of trust and training can't override the deep instincts of wild animals kept in confinement. This incident raised urgent questions about marine animal captivity, ethics in performance training, and the silent toll on creatures who were never meant to live in tanks. Don't miss what comes next. To learn more about real-life animal attacks and the stories behind them, subscribe, like, and share. Your support helps us bring these important and often overlooked stories to light. But for now, we leave you with this. Zane Marston's story isn't just about loss, it's about love, trust, and the moment both were shattered. When trust meets. Instinct, the final bond between Zane and Nani. The relationship between captive orcas and their trainers is a delicate balance of trust and risk. Despite their intelligence and emotional depth, orcas are still wild animals. Their behavior can be unpredictable, and no amount of training or affection can fully override their natural instincts. Zane Marston's connection with Nalani, known affectionately as Nani, was one of the strongest bonds ever witnessed at Sealand Marine Park. But tragically, that very bond would be tested in a way no one could have imagined. Nani. The star of Sealand, Nani, wasn't just any orca. Towering at 30 feet long and weighing over 12,000 pounds, she was a majestic presence. From the moment she arrived at Sealand over 15 years ago, she quickly rose to prominence as one of the park's most powerful and captivating performers. Her strength was matched only by her astounding intelligence and grace. She mastered intricate routines with ease and consistently wowed crowds with her beauty and showmanship. Audiences adored her, trainers respected her, and among them, no one shared a closer relationship with her than Zane. A silent language of trust. Zane had worked with Nani for nearly a decade, forging a deep connection based on mutual respect and understanding. He often spoke of the unspoken language they had created together, a form of silent communication that allowed them to perform in perfect harmony. Whether executing a complex performance or engaging in casual training, Nani responded to Zane with uncanny precision. To outsiders, it was magical. To Zane, it was a labor of love built over years of careful study and compassion. Signs of strain beneath the surface, yet Nani was not just a performer. She was a complex, sentient being. And over time, cracks began to appear in the carefully crafted world of shows and routines. Trainers started noticing subtle but alarming changes in Nani's behavior. She occasionally made sudden, erratic movements. Her response to familiar commands became slower, less predictable. Some dismissed it as temporary adjustment to new show sequences, but others feared something deeper was unfolding, a growing frustration rooted in years of captivity and performance. Zane remained confident, reassuring his team that Nani was simply adapting. He trusted her, he believed in their bond, but a sense of tension began to settle over those who worked with her most closely. The calm before the storm was a sunny morning at Sealand, just another day of scheduled training and rehearsals. The park buzzed with its usual energy as Zane prepared for another session with Nani. On the agenda was a brand new routine designed to showcase her raw power and fluid agility, but something about Nani felt off. Her movements, usually smooth and elegant, appeared sharper, more calculated. She swam with a certain purpose, her gaze intense and focused. To the untrained eye, nothing seemed out of the ordinary, but for those who had worked with orcas long enough, it was the kind of behavior that carried a quiet warning. As Zane entered the pool to begin the session, no one, least of all him, could have anticipated the tragic series of events that were about to unfold. The moment everything changed, it was a routine they had practiced countless times. Zane Marston entered the pool with his usual calm expression, his voice steady and soothing as he greeted Nani, the orca he had trained and trusted for nearly a decade. There was nothing in the air, no hint of danger, that suggested what was about to unfold. At first, everything appeared normal. Nani responded as she always had, leaping, twirling, executing synchronized movements with grace and precision. The audience would have seen nothing amiss. Zane focused intently, guiding her through the familiar steps. But something began to shift. The rising tension, Nani's movements grew increasingly erratic. Her once fluid routines became fragmented, her responses delayed, her gestures sharper. When Zane gave the cue for another jump, Nani hesitated. Then she launched out of the water with an alarming intensity. Zane noticed the shift immediately. Her energy had changed. Something wasn't right. The calm between them was breaking. He called to her again, trying to redirect her focus, but her eyes, usually locked in quiet understanding, had become distant, unfocused. The connection that once grounded their work began to unravel, replaced by something raw, something wild. Other trainers noticed too. They exchanged uneasy glances, sensing the growing tension in the water. Nani's demeanor was no longer just unpredictable, it felt hostile. A bond. Fractured. For months, there had been whispers. Nani had shown subtle signs of distress, flashes of agitation, unpredictable reactions during training. Some believed she was simply expressing natural instincts. Others feared she was unraveling under the relentless pressure of captivity. Zane, ever the optimist, stood by her. He believed in their bond, in their years of mutual trust. But this day, this moment was different. As he raised his hand to give another command, the water around him seemed to still for just a beat. His heart quickened. He felt the shift. The connection between them had broken. And then it happened. The attack, without warning, Nani lunged. She surged through the water with terrifying force, her massive body slicing through the pool towards Zane. Caught off guard, he tried to react, but there was no time. The sheer velocity of her attack overwhelmed him. Nani's jaws clamped down. Zane flailed, desperately trying to escape her grip, but the orca's strength was unrelenting. The pool erupted in chaos, waves crashing, foam rising, water stained. With panic, this was no longer a training session, it was a nightmare. The scene turns to horror. Trainers on the sidelines froze in shock. For a split second, they couldn't comprehend what they were seeing. Nani and Zane, always seen as an inseparable team, were now locked in a life-and-death struggle. "I couldn't believe it," one trainer would later say. Zane and Nani always had this special bond, but something just snapped. One moment, they were in sync. The next, it was like she became a different animal. Emergency crews scrambled, trainers screamed commands and rushed to grab poles, rescue lines, anything that could help. But it was too late. Nani thrashed violently, dragging Zane deeper into the water again and again. Every attempt to intervene was met with a wall of brute force. The water churned. The trainers cried out. Zane's body was tossed like a rag doll. The desperate gasps and weakening movements told them all what they feared. He was losing the fight, and they couldn't reach him. The final moment's panic reached its peak. Get the ropes," one trainer screamed, but it was chaos. The surface of the pool exploded with Nani's fury. Her immense power, once a symbol of beauty and strength, was now terrifyingly unleashed. Zane's struggle slowed, his movements grew faint. In those final excruciating moments, the bond he had spent years nurturing vanished beneath the waves. Trainers reached out with trembling hands, but all they could do was watch. Zane Marston, the man who believed in trust over control, who gave his life to the creatures he loved, was gone. The final minutes and the aftermath. The chaos was unrelenting. Despite everything the trainers knew, despite the years of experience and strict protocols, nothing had prepared them for this. Nani showed no signs of stopping. Her movements became increasingly frantic, powerful and unpredictable, making any rescue attempt nearly impossible. One trainer dove into the water, risking everything in a desperate bid to reach Zane. Others tossed ropes from the edges of the pool, shouting commands and scrambling to find anything that could pull him to safety. But seconds slipped away. Then minutes. The scene blurred into a frenzy of crashing water, panicked cries and Zane's own desperate pleas for help. What felt like an eternity was, in truth, only a few moments. By the time Nani relented, the damage had been done. A tragic end. Zane was rushed to the hospital, but his injuries were too severe. He did not survive. News of his death sent shockwaves throughout the marine park and far beyond. Sealand was immediately shut down pending investigation. Authorities, marine biologists, and animal behavior experts arrived quickly, determined to understand how a trusted, experienced trainer could be lost in such a horrific way. The attack not only shattered hearts, it shattered assumptions. The search for answers investigators combed through every detail of the incident. Was there a specific trigger, a sign that had gone unnoticed, or had this tragedy been building all along? Experts revisited security footage, reviewed Nani's behavioral history, and examined Zane's training logs. They analyzed environmental factors and the timing of commands, searching for anything that might explain Nani's sudden violent outburst. But what emerged was not a simple explanation. It was a complex and troubling truth. The weight of captivity. Nani had spent over 15 years in captivity. Like many orcas in marine parks, her life was confined to a tank, a fraction of the space she would roam in the wild. The pressure to perform, the lack of environmental stimulation, and the absence of natural social structures had taken a toll. Behavioral scientists have long warned about the psychological impact of captivity on orcas. Deprived of freedom, complex social bonds, and vast ocean territories, these intelligent creatures often develop signs of stress, ranging from depression and aggression to self-harm and sudden, violent behavior. Zane's death, tragic as it was not entirely unprecedented. Aftermath, isolation, outcry, and a call for change. Following the tragic attack, Nani, the once beloved star of Sealand, was pulled from all performances. She was transferred to an isolated holding pool, far from the crowd, far from the lights. The same orca that had once captivated audiences with grace and power now floated restlessly in confinement, alone. And then came the questions. Questions that had long lingered in the shadows of marine parks, but now screamed to be answered. Was Nani's attack a result of years of confinement, stress, and psychological trauma? Had the pressure to perform, the isolation, and the monotony of tank life finally pushed her beyond a breaking point? The public began to see Nani not just as an aggressor, but as a victim. From star to symbol, once hailed as an ambassador of the oceans, Nani was now at the center of a national debate. Animal rights organizations took to the streets. Protests erupted outside marine parks. Free the Orcas signs became commonplace as a global conversation about captivity caught fire. What had been seen as thrilling entertainment was being re-examined as a deeply flawed and morally troubling practice. Behind the scenes, Sealand struggled to defend its practices. They claimed the highest standards of animal care, but the world was no longer convinced. Documentaries, expert testimony, and scientific research began to paint a different picture, one of emotional deprivation, social isolation, and psychological suffering for captive orcas. Marine mammal scientist Dr. Naomi Rose put it bluntly: orcas in the wild live in complex social groups. They roam hundreds of miles, form lifelong bonds, and engage in sophisticated communication. In captivity, they're denied all of this. The result? Frustration, depression, and sometimes tragedy. The push for change Nani's story wasn't unique, but it was undeniable. As more people learned about the conditions in which orcas lived and performed, public sentiment began to shift. The demand grew louder. End orca captivity. Give them space, give them peace, or give them freedom. Many called for the release of captive orcas into sea sanctuaries, vast enclosed ocean environments where they could swim freely, socialize, naturally, and finally reclaim a piece of the life they were meant to have. For the first time, it seemed the world was ready to listen. A legacy beyond the tanks. The investigation into Zane Marston's death unfolded. One truth emerged with piercing clarity. This incident had changed everything. The spectacle of Orca shows no longer felt magical. The carefully choreographed routines now came with a painful awareness of what might lie beneath. The suffering, the stress, the silent toll captivity takes on intelligent creatures. Zane's death was not in vain. It became a catalyst, a moment that forced people to question, to reflect, and to act. He had believed in the connection between humans and animals. He had dedicated his life to understanding, respecting, and honoring the orcas he worked with. And in the end, his tragic passing became a symbol, a reminder of the limits of that trust and of the high cost of captivity. More than entertainment, Zane. Marston's legacy lives on, not only in the memories of those who loved him, but in a growing movement of people who believe that orcas and all animals deserve more than lives spent behind glass. The story of Nani and Zane is not just one of tragedy, it's a call to action. Play to rethink how we treat the world's most intelligent marine creatures, and a promise to honor Zane's memory by striving for a future where no animal is forced to suffer for our entertainment. You can help if you believe in animal rights and the freedom of captive orcas. Support organizations working to end their confinement. Like, share, and subscribe to raise awareness. Spread the message. Let Zane's story be the beginning of a better future for Nani and for every animal still living in captivity. Together we can help set them free